Many of my clients are having to manage elements of uncertainty in their planning. The days of having only one strategy are coming to an end because the world can change faster than you can call a board meeting. When September 11 happened, within 48 hours, British Airways had already announced the departure of 7,000 of their members of staff. How did they manage to respond so quickly and in such detail? They did it because they had already modelled various scenarios. They already had a sort of plan A, B, C, D, and a plan E, and another plan F. F for total market failure or for some major catastrophic event. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. So when September 11 happened, they were able to implement a process which they had already given some attention to in terms of thinking and strategy. So the lesson is multiple thinking, dynamic leadership, faster response times, and always making sure that you're one step ahead of those potentials. And that is why futuring is so important. It's not just looking at a reasonable expectation, but it's where you're going to place your biggest bet, your second bet, and your third bet. And banks have been doing this a long time. They did it back in 1996, 97, 98, when there was still some debate about exactly what direction online banking would take, for example. And the most sensible banks placed a number of bets. They put a certain amount of finance into this platform, a certain amount into that, a certain amount into the other. They kept their options open while not killing the balance sheet. And those banks had the best opportunity to respond as the e-world evolved. And you see this kind of innovative scenario building and creativity in many different organizations. Some, of course, are very, very innovative and do not strategically plan in the same way at all. And that, I'm thinking of people like Google, where up to a fifth of each person's time each week is playtime. They're allowed to innovate widely and wildly in a way which is completely unrelated to their own business unit objectives. And then another entire day a week is given to innovation and play within their own area of business objectives. So you've got 40% of their time involved in innovation. And in that kind of environment, if you ask Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, what his own thoughts are about the future evolution of Google, he'd say, well, he has various views on it, but if you really want to understand the future, you need to go and look at the beta areas where different ideas are being tested, and it will be up to the internet community to decide really how those things go forward, because the most popular ones are the ones that will be developed. So his short summary would be to say he has very little idea about the longer term future of Google, and you'd find Bill Gates saying the same things about Microsoft. That these companies innovate, they play, they have multiple scenarios, they're extremely flexible and dynamic, and are looking for opportunities to shine in ever-changing circumstances. Now you have to contrast that with relatively monolithic organizations by their very nature, such as oil companies, where they've got fixed oil facilities, fixed infrastructure. They can't move from one oil rig or oil field to another. If they make a big investment, it's there for 20 years, 30 years. And these companies also have to do scenario planning. Why? Because they also are affected by major uncertainties. They also have to model possibilities. The possibility, for instance, of a major conflict, a new major conflict within the Middle East, maybe a confrontation between the United States and Iran, a major political issue arising in Russia, new political changes perhaps in Kazakhstan, and new attitudes towards oil companies, and so on. And these things have to be considered alongside other potential changes. For instance, it could be new instabilities within the Niger Delta in Nigeria, which is the 8th largest oil-producing country in the world, and one which is becoming one of the most difficult to manage from the point of view of infrastructure and security. So while we have these uncertainties, we have to deal with more than one future, more than one possibility. And we have to be constantly watching and constantly retuning what we think the weighting of those future possibilities are, what the likelihood of those different things are, so that we can get the right balance of resources into the infrastructure for the future.